Hello, I'm Norman Daniels from Paxton Presbyterian Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to talk about changes in the church over the last nearly 300 years. Being a large structure, something is always broken, getting ready to break, or needing replacement in a building such as this. And some things we keep adding to, just as they did back then. If you look here, you see a walkway in our meditation garden, and this was just put in over the winter. So this is a new item, a new change that has been done, as is the gate, which was just put in about a year ago. And even back in the past, changes were being made for the congregation at that particular time. Here to the right, we have the Sunday school building, built in 1905 by the Boyd family, which was a subject of a earlier talk. Behind me, this wall and this annex, which we went through, this is where the communion set is in that annex. This is also 1905. And this is a meditation garden. It looks very beautiful in the spring and summer. Right now it's still in its winter's hibernation. So if we walk this way, we can talk about the church itself. As we look, some of the changes that you can see from the outside would be, if you look straight over there, you see the Sunday school, 1905 Sunday school building. And if we look further to our left, that's called the education building. That was built after World War II during the baby boom to house the influx of young families and members to come. So as the needs of the church changed and our membership increased, we had to make changes. Now, if we look back at the church itself, the sanctuary building, this supposedly was built or started to be built around 1740. So what is original here would be the stone walls, rafters up in the attic, and what we see here, we see these stones, the stone wall along the side, and that actually was just done within the last 10 to 15 years to house our air conditioning. They were going to come in through the nook, the meditation garden that we saw earlier, but when they started to dig underneath the church to run the piping necessary, they found that the church is actually was built with its stones directly on the ground. So there's no foundation to this church at this point, so they had to quickly shore it up so that wall wouldn't collapse, and they had to come up with another way, which is why the stone planters are here. Now, the other thing I'd like to show you, if you look up at these windows, there's two windows on the second floor. They're balcony windows. There's two others at the other side. And the thing about that is that, and I'm going to show you, this is the 1931 blueprints, and it's showing the windows that are there, and they were installed in 1931. Before that, there were no windows up there. And so many people think those are original, and they are not. They're part, and it shows it on this sheet here. Now, before we move on, I want to show you this original picture, and this is from before the changes. You can see the sanctuary building is all by itself. You can see from a stove that kept it warm. You see the chimney there. You also see this entrance is stoned up, and that entrance would be over near where the meditation garden is, and that's where the pulpit was. The pulpit changed position several times over the course of the history of this building, so when this picture was taken, that's where the pulpit was. But you will notice if you look up above in the second floor, there are no windows. Now the next stop we're going to make is to go down where the original log church stood. This is the approximate location of where the original log church stood. It was said that it was 53 feet from the stone church. And so that's about this side of the monument itself. It is thought that the log church was built somewhere in the late 1720s and the early 1730s. Remember that the stone church, according to what we know right now, was built starting in 1740. So for those few years, this was the church. And it was approximately 20 by 30 feet. And in 1931, when they did the big renovation to the interior of the church building, they were trying to figure out where the original cabin was located. And Reverend Harry King and two others did excavations. They found two stone piles that were acting as supports for the corners of the church. And again, they were about 26 feet wide, and that would be going from here towards the church. And they could not find the other two corners because they figured it was either in the road or even maybe in the cemetery itself. So we know two. And that's why this was put there. They used some of the stones that were the supports for the original church for this. And so this is approximately, I think, where the corners would be the west side, which is that direction. One little story with this was that Reverend John Elder, who was our long-term minister during the French and Indian War, during the Revolutionary War, and beyond, and we'll talk more about him in greater depth in future talks, started to use the old log church after the stone church was built. And it was said that he would come out to come to the Sunday service from his study, the old log church, and the members of the congregation would line the path from the door of the log church to the door of the stone church, standing silently, and as he walked past, they took off their hats in tribute. Now, I was a teacher for 35 years, and I can tell you that never happened to me. So it shows you the esteem in which he was held. When the original church was actually torn down, we don't know. I haven't found that yet. But we continue to research this area. But changes, as I said earlier, so they started with a log church, they outgrew that, they built the stone church, and we've been adding and fixing ever since. Now, I want to show you one more thing, and this is a picture of the church. This is the early 1900s. Again, you can see the chimney there, and you can see the stone, or you can see the tree, and that's about where our stone is right now behind me. And if you look off to this side, you can see a stone porch, and that was also part of the 1905 renovation. In 1931, they made it more of a colonial kind of church. So this church is constantly changing to meet the needs of the congregation. My name is Norman Daniels from Paxton Church, and we're glad you're with us. feel free to see our website at paxtonchurch.org. You can see information about our programs, our history, see sermons and church services that have been recorded, as well as on Sundays at 10:15 you can see live stream our services from inside. So have a good day and know that God blesses you every single day.